Well, good morning. I would like to read again a piece of the Gospel according to Mark. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me, and I will make you fish for people." Immediately they left their nets and followed him. As he went a little farther, he saw James and his brother John, who were in their boat mending the nets. Immediately he called them, and they left their father in the boat with the hired men and followed him. Did you notice? Jesus called common fishermen. He did not call scribes, Pharisees. He did not call priests, Levites, or anybody who were well known in those times and thought to be holy people and set themselves apart as more righteous. It seems on the surface that Jesus was asking the near impossible of these faithful fishermen, but they obeyed, even leaving family members behind. Just as Jesus called on the common fishermen, and one in particular who eventually became the rock of the Christian church, he calls us. We are everyday normal people. We earn our living each day just as the fishermen did. Well, how would you respond if Jesus came up to you in your workplace, or in Fred Meyer, or perhaps at your kid's soccer game and said, "Follow me and I will make you fish for people"? Would you say, "I have to take my groceries home first"? Or, "I have to get this report into my boss first"? Or, "I'm waiting for my daughter to score a goal and then I'll follow you"? What about my family? What about my job? And what will the neighbors think? He did not make an appointed time in the future for the fishermen to join him. Jesus meant immediately. The word was even used twice in the reading. It is thought that the writer of this gospel, Mark, believed that Jesus' return was imminent and therefore used that kind of language to encourage haste. The passage clearly shows that these fishermen dropped everything and followed Jesus right then and there. My understanding of the fishermen is that they were not necessarily well educated. They were not rich by any stretch of the imagination. However, they must have known Jesus pretty well, and they had deep faith that he needed them and that he was doing God's work. Why would men who fished for a living to support themselves and their families drop their life's work to follow an itinerant preacher? At Epiphany, we celebrated the coming of the Magi, who followed an especially bright star in the sky to find the baby Jesus. They also must have gone on faith. We don't know very well who these Magi were. Some say they were astrologers, some say they were royalty. We're not even certain there were three. What the call they did hear from God that caused them to stop whatever they were doing and follow a strange phenomenon in the sky to a foreign country, to a humble place where farm animals bedded down to worship a baby. Is that what it takes to feel a call to serve the Lord? How does God urge you and me to do his work? I don't think we, as God's children, get just one call. If my life is anything to go on, everything I've done and all the different activities I've done, and I've garnered the knowledge, doing a broad variety of all these things, make up who I am today. Even during the down times of life, when I was not fully in touch with God's voice. When I wasn't aware of God, God was working on me. It is that way with every one of us. Today, God calls us all the time to serve his mission in some capacity. And quite frankly, I admire any and all who work for God's people in any capacity, whether as one who has been ordained or one who belongs to an order as a brother, a sister, or an associate, or the myriad of people who volunteer their time and skills to keep a church and God's mission for the church moving along. Whenever I've been called to do something for the church, I haven't always been skilled at that task, but I got the courage to try to make a difference. Not all of us can be beloved pastoral leaders like Father Simon or Father Wes, who works with the hospitals. Not all of us are savvy at counting and documenting the dollars like Robin and the people who help her count every week. Not all of us are first-rate at organizing a busy office like Laura is. And not all of us are as skilled as the building and grounds people and the custodian at keeping the physical plant humming along and in good shape. And not all of us are as talented as those wonderful musicians up there and the servers and readers who carry us in worship each Sunday. But every worker bee who is called to give a spot of time and talent adds to the care and feeding of the church as it serves God's children. There are many who fulfill God's call quietly, behind the scenes. We don't see them. They pray the daily office at home. They write letters and cards to those who are lonely. They call them. And many who are also visible, like you, doing all the tasks that are required to keep things going smoothly. Of course, we need to take the time, no matter what the calling is, to nourish our own souls and bodies. I quote from a delightful book I recently purchased called Lectionary Levity, The Use of Humor in Preaching, by Ian Markham and Samantha Gottlish, both affiliated with the Virginia Theological Seminary. An older, tired-looking dog wandered into my yard. I could tell from his collar and well-fed belly that he had a home and was well taken care of. He calmly came over to me. I gave him a few pats on his head, and he then followed me into my house, slowly walked down the hall, curled up in the corner, and fell asleep. An hour later, he went to the door, and I let him out. The next day, he was back, greeted me in my yard, walked inside and resumed his spot in the hall, and again slept for an hour. This continued off and on for several weeks. Curious, I pinned a note to his collar. I would like to find out who the owner of this wonderful, sweet dog is and ask if you are aware that almost every afternoon your dog comes to my house for a nap. The next day he arrived for his nap with a different note pinned to his collar. He lives in a home with 6 children, 2 under the age of 3. He's trying to catch up on his sleep. Can I come with him tomorrow? Life is busy. Serving God in the many different ways in which we have been called can be difficult. Sometimes we need the moment of calm in the week or in the day, and sometimes we just need to find somewhere to take a nap. It doesn't take Jesus, the man, coming at us on the beach as we are tying our nets to recognize that we are called. It's a nudge, perhaps in the middle of the night, or at dinner, or, heaven help us, in the shower, or it might just be at your kid's soccer game. The truth is, God needs us at all times to serve. We are called to be His hands and His heart, no matter how humble the job might be. And of course, we are also called to care for ourselves in that service to God. This is how we witness His mission for His children in the world. We represent the God and Christ we would all like to know. We are the love of God and of Jesus made visible to the world. That is what makes us fishers of people. Amen.